Welcome everybody to M365 UK, the May edition, and really appreciate you taking your time out and being here with us today. So let's get started, and we'll just kind of get through the introductions first. So today we have a star-studded agenda today with great community stars, MVPs from the Microsoft 365 field. It's a 2-hour user group today, so we have Hans Brender to begin with for our first session, which is basically all things OneDrive. So we'll catch up with Hans in a minute. But we also then have a 10-minute break just to kind of, being in the remote working scenario, just to kind of help us get that a bit of a time off between the two sessions. And then 5:10 UK time, we have, again, from the US, we got David Warner, we got Hugo, you got Bill Cameron, Chris Kent, great stars within the Pnp Patterns and Practices Tools community within the Microsoft 365 space and with all things SharePoint and Teams. So they'll be joining us in just a little over an hour. And so, if you're kind of new to the user group, then just a bit about myself. I'm Chirag Patel. I organize and run this Microsoft 365 UK user group on a monthly basis. You can reach out to me on techchirag.com, and also you will find all the links to the slides, the YouTube recordings for all the M365 on my site there. For those of you who may not be fully aware, I work with Patel Consulting, delivering secure collaboration and productivity solutions through Microsoft 365, Teams, SharePoint, Yammer, and all those wonderful tech. And so I've been doing this for about 20 years. The last 8-9 years has been within the Office 365 space, covering all kinds of workloads with the deployments, migrations, as well as just enhancing the business value of the existing deployments there. And if I do get little time, spare time, then I tend to speak at various community events, and I quite enjoy that because I get to learn as well as being able to share lots of content with the ever-changing landscape we have within the Microsoft 365 space. And for that, obviously, Microsoft have recognized for my contributions, who awarded me last year with the MVP in Office Apps and Services. And also I try and keep up with the IT industry, so I've got various certifications that I try and keep up and follow those. But also recently I've also been chosen for the British Computer Society as the Chartered Membership Assessor, and all that means basically is work with all the IT professionals and try and maintain the standards in order to validate the experiences that they work on various projects, not just Microsoft, but it could be any other technology. So and that's pretty much about me. And also, because we have the event kind of happening on a monthly basis, so currently M365 UK has 550 members. So just in the last month or so, we've had 75 new members joining. So really appreciate to all of you who've just joined, and also to the existing members who's also been following throughout all the sessions over the last months or so. So I've had some great feedback, and I'll try my best to bring a variety of sessions to you. So next month we have 2 great sessions, again slightly outside of if you like of Teams or SharePoint, but we have 2 great speakers there. You got Neil McLisland, who's an MVP who specializes in the Windows virtual devices. So he's got a great session coming up next month on that. But also we have Anup Tati, who also is a speaker in various community events. So he'll be talking to us about various options in obtaining the access tokens when working with Azure applications using Microsoft Graph. So those are the URLs there. I will post them in the Q&A. So throughout the user group on the top right of the screens, feel free to ask any questions to our speakers today, and or if I can help you out in other ways, we'll post some necessary links to kind of get you the info that you need. obviously the session is being recorded, so try and make sure that this gets out to you within the next 2 days. So by Friday, look out for the links on Twitter. M365 UK is the handle for it. So the links to slides and the videos will be posted on that. And of course, as usual, I always look for speakers. And if you have anything to share, it doesn't have to be a full 50-minute session. It can be half an hour if you prefer. Doesn't have to be anything to do with just specific technology within Microsoft 365. We cover all sessions: SharePoint, Teams, Power Platform, and various other services. So feel free to apply for that, and vast majority of them I do take them on. I've had few speakers in the recent times who try to come with some commercial or sponsorship proposal, and I just don't do that. So I try and keep it as much as possible as community oriented as possible. So Donna Zedek, please go and apply for your speaking session there. Okay, so kind of brings me to just before I hand over to Hans. So really appreciate again for Hans Brender's time and effort. He's an 8-time MVP within Office Apps and Services, and pretty much he's been in the industry for over 30 years now, and doing various kinds of roles over that time. Obviously specializes in OneDrive, and many of you must have come across him in some way or form in various events and his blogs, and he's obviously known as Mr. OneDrive. So doing great things, and more often than not, I bump into him in various community events as well. So it's really an honor to have you here, Hans Brender. And yeah, so we'll get all the info, the latest info around OneDrive, and the hints and tips and tricks for architects and admins. So with that, I'll hand over to Hans. Hans, take it away, and welcome to M365 UK.
Yes, thank you so much. We always meet together at different events, and although in India I was 6 times in the last year in India, have spoken in small events. It's very interesting to see what's going up around the world. So who am I? You have introduced me. Yes, it's now 9 years, 1 year more. It's so many. I'm working as a cloud productivity evangelist. I have to say I'm retired. I do not have to work anymore. I got some money from the state, but it's so much to do, and therefore I still work as a productivity evangelist and do a lot in the community and help the people as mentoring and all the stuff. And I speak about most often as OneDrive, starting 10 years ago or some with OneDrive. And you see all the email block. The thing is that the block is very interesting. We see that later on, and Twitter is only the formal things. If you have a later thing, if you have a question, you can also write me at the email, because sometimes it's not so easy what we will do. Talking about this stuff means the agenda, an evening. Okay, here we have sun. Now it rains, then the sun comes out. I'm flying over with a virtual airplane to Heathrow, going to the Heathrow Express, going to Paddock. Then I ask, where am I? And it's okay now, because so many teams, and it's impossible to see all the stuff. Therefore, I'm here. The thing is, we talk about a little bit about the technical architecture for admins, but also the different sync methods. That means the basics. So I see in the community, in different events, I have to speak to ask the people, and sometimes the people do not know. It's not Box, it's not Dropbox, it's OneDrive, and OneDrive is a little bit special. So therefore, I will go with you to some slides. What is the best thing to do? Then I'll speak about a little bit about files on demand, and then new things come up. Add to OneDrive. Why do we talk about add to OneDrive? And absolutely, it doesn't work well this time, but I have some pictures with me, and you see that live. Also, the sync admin reports are now available. Okay, don't hurry if you don't have it. It's not so good. Microsoft has to do a lot of stuff to implement these things right. It's not perfect, but it will come. And then about the community board for OneDrive, what that is, we'll see that. So starting with all this stuff means, hey, OneDrive is more than just another network drive without or with a drive ladder. That's the first and most important thing. It doesn't come from me. People about in US has to say, hey, here I read your blog and I understand that. And therefore I say this sentence. It is a Microsoft foundation of collaboration. You can sync, yes, but in a different way. So therefore we have to look inside. If in the task, what we have and what we do not have. So we have synchronization, it's asynchronous. That means it's like chat, it's like sending emails and so on. It's not a network share. Therefore, you have to look. That OneDrive X runs in a user context means you see it on a different level. We will show it later on. It comes with 113 different languages. It's one engine, even if you use OneDrive or OneDrive for Business. What the hell is the difference? Sometimes the people have to say, hey, do you see that? Yes, you will see that later on in the demo part. I will show you there is a icon in black and white, and there's an icon in the notification area in blue. Blue means if it's shadowed, you see, okay, that's a new one. We also have some old one. If you go to a SharePoint on premises before 2019 version, you still have to use the old Groove client. But we cannot talk about that. On Monday, that was one day before I have to go to the dentist. Yesterday was when the dentist, and therefore I have to say and change it a little bit. And on Monday, I have talked to a company with 10,000 users here in Germany, about 6.5, no, it was 8 hours or 7 hours, 7 hours only about OneDrive. And that was not all the slides I have for them. So it's complicated. Means OneDrive is an instance, and you can have it more than once. You can have it 3, 4, 7, whatever you want, but you will only have one OneDrive personal. Microsoft has restricted that. Sorry. It comes with selective sync, so you can decide what you want to have. You can handle this stuff, and the companies with OneDrive for Business handle that also. Therefore, it means it's enterprise ready. We can show with group policies and all the stuff and handle organization. That's an easy part. You can do that only on your machine if you have the group policy editor, and we will show that also. It's a self-update. Each day, the client, if you start it automatically, will show up and looks if there a new version is there. There are 3 different levels, and therefore you have to say, okay, going to the thing as an insider means each week a new version. Not only last week they have decided no information, but they have implemented some new things, and therefore, okay, all 13 days. Production is a little bit better, and if you prefer and working in a big company, it could be that you can have to say, I will work only with the deferred or enterprise version. But you do it automatically. You do not have to do it anything. That's okay. It syncs only with Office 365, and the latest SharePoint on-premise version means 2019. And you see on this that you have here blob storage in Azure. Normally you have that is in Azure. It's OneDrive Personal, it's SharePoint on-premise, it's in Office 365. But in Azure, if we go and have it in Office 365, behind the scene, OneDrive Personal, no SharePoint involved. And the other in Office 365, you have your OneDrive for Business and you have also your SharePoint. You will see that, but later on, behind the scene, it's stored in Azure. All things are stored in Azure. And we have to look where are the things are installed. That's your user and the app data local Microsoft OneDrive. That's one part. And you have to see what's happened there. All in this part are all things are there. The version, the programs, the logo images, the app data, the OneDrive exe, that's the most important part, the logs, the settings. Yes, if you have more than one drive, you have some settings in there. The setup and group policy files you find there. But not only there, it's all, and you find here, if it looks in the storage, sorry, in this storage, it looks at one client SFX MS to look for new versions. But nowadays we have it different. Thinking if you have more than one machine, you have to do, or one machine with more users, then they will do it more often to have all the new version. A new version means 43 megabyte and 45 megabytes for the complete stuff. So therefore, Microsoft has to say, okay, we change it where it normally works and change it to program files x86, means 32-bit in Microsoft OneDrive. So there you have the programs and all the stuff, but not the logs and the settings. They are still in the users. But it's only on one machine. If you have 5 users on one machine, so there is good. But from now, 2029, that's a version where the first 64-bit version comes up. And this is program, it's 64, means in program files, Microsoft OneDrive. So both will work, whatever you want to do. Sorry. And sometimes you have to look. Sometimes it's a sync engine, means you have some limits because you want to work with your machine and not that the machine only have to sync this stuff. In a SharePoint library, you have up to 30 million documents in each library. The performance decreases if you have more than 100,000 files. And the next generation sync line, your OneDrive for Business or OneDrive in this common, absolutely all things together, 300,000 files. Has nothing to do with the file length because we can have it now not only 15, 100, now 250 gigs. So it takes, if I have a quick connection to the internet, but it takes so long because in Germany we have a good download rate, but only a small upload rate. And therefore it's not things about 250 gigs. Collaboration with such a thing means architecture files or something else. The file name has to be expanded to 400 characters. You should say no network map drives, no authenticated proxy. Microsoft do not understand that. No libraries with settings check in, check out, because that blocks these stuff. All other things will go if you got the slides later on and you see to click on that. That means here are the restrictions. There has to be changed all the way. It's not fixed. Microsoft is changing it all the day. Not all the day, but I think once a month. So for automatic updates, FS says to perform one client SFX MS and glive.com has to be open. That's TCP 44380. Means if you click on the stuff, you see here complete Office 365 URLs and IP ranges. And that means here is Exchange. And on the other side, you see here is Online and OneDrive for Business. And that means all what be required you have to implement. And that means, okay, there are 2 that have to be done, this one and this one. And I talk about this one for the updates. This will be for a little bit more speed, but they have to be opened. If you have a firewall, you should look if you are open there. So going back to that means, yeah, if it's open, you can handle that. So look, sometimes people ask me, hey, it's so slow. We have 20,000 files and it's so slow because 15 or 20 people are working so fast and this client comes not with me. That's version push and pull. So sometimes you have to allow, therefore I showed it to you, allow traffic to start.ns.windows.com. That's the second one. And then OneDrive will work perfectly in this range if you have low than 300,000 files. But stay together. We have to look first a little bit what's inside OneDrive. What does it mean? So therefore, I have built some graphics for you. And that means, okay, that's the cloud. That's Exchange Online. We see that later on. And starting with that, and we see we have SharePoint Online and we have OneDrive Personal. So, okay, what does it mean? We have in SharePoint Online maybe some document libraries, finance or sales or marketing or whatever. I only pay 3 because this is a documentation. And then we have not only here 3 thinking, we have 10,000 people, means 10,000 site collections for OneDrive for Business. Each user have a space inside SharePoint with his OneDrive for Business. And you are your administrator alone in your OneDrive for Business. Therefore, I only made 3, then you can handle not 10,000. But thinking about it's around the stuff. We have Windows 10, we have Outlook, maybe Outlook as a desktop application, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And on the other side, we have a browser, the web browser. We will handle that. We have iOS, we have Android, and we still have Teams. So therefore, I have this T-shirt with Teams there. But how does it work to handle? Starting with the first one in Outlook. People has to realize if I have a file and we have to work together with an external, we can handle that. The old ways, we send them the file. Now we have 2 files. And that's not good. 2 files we should have. I cannot change it and you can change it. I have to wait for you, whatever. And if there are more people, they have to stand by. Means we have extra work in the past. So we have to say, no, we do not have it. We should have and store it in a document library or in my OneDrive for Business, the file we are working on that. And then we send this file via Outlook and say, hey, here's a new version, but it stays in your SharePoint Online. The file is still there. Means the cloud has to say, hey, I'm the lead of all the stuff, not your machine in Windows 10. If you synchronize it later, you will see that. Not in Word, not in Excel, not in Teams, not in the browser. Here is the music, we say in Germany. So therefore, the document library or your OneDrive for Business, one file. And if the external work with that, he changed this file and all other people who are implement the same, see that in a document library, see that I have changed and we can work together. Maybe during the same time. That's collaboration and nothing sending out and working with different libraries. So that's the same thing. And I only make sense. OneDrive Personal, yes, you will still have a little bit, but I do not talk about OneDrive Personal. That's a separate thing. And we have to click. I only want to see the big ones, the OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online on Office 365. If you have Outlook, we also have Outlook on the web. The same thing. Yes, you can handle that. That's not an issue. Document libraries, you can have the handles the same, but we have seen with Outlook on the desktop. So that's the one thing we can handle, but seeing there, OneDrive for Business as a part, as a branding, is also your longer arm or your extension on your hard disk in the cloud. And if you handle that from Windows 10 with a small device, means, yes, now you have the ability to have, let's say you have in Windows 10 250 gig. You can have here some petabytes in there. You can synchronize there. I will show you why and how. That means, okay, that's your business. It's your machine. It's your thinking. But if you share something, it must be here in OneDrive for Business or in the document library, not in OneDrive Personal. I say only to the companies, not with OneDrive Personal. We have no control over it for security reasons. But we can have it with document libraries. That's okay. And thinking if you are, that's only one OneDrive for Business and one OneDrive Personal. So now we have to change and view a little bit. That's one tenant, only one tenant. But now we say it a different way. I have Exchange Online. I have the same for another tenant. Means as a consultant, I'm going out. I have several tenants. So sometimes you have to look where it was, but we can handle that also. You have still over there a OneDrive for Business, and there are also some in document libraries I can have in my Windows 10. That looks a little bit horrible, but it works. And I have to show you. Here you see 3 of them. That's 3 OneDrive, 2 OneDrive for Business and 1 OneDrive Personal. So looking for the stuff, you see that also, if we look for that, that's here a tenant, that's another tenant, that's my home tenant. Here is a tenant with a company I'm working for. And here is my OneDrive for Business, a different thing. And here, okay, I said it's gray. Yes, it should be gray, but the people do not realize that is only here in this stuff is the gray area for OneDrive Personal. So that looks complicated, but you see, although if I look here in there, I see a place with the status, what's in there. Okay, This means local, no, that means cloud. Where are my files? We will see that later on. So that means if you look for them, and sometimes you don't see that. People say, hey, I have no OneDrive for Business. It looks so. I say, look in the notification area. Oh, it's nothing there. You have to look and open it, bring it down in one, and you see that. And then you can press the right button, click, and you see the settings, and you see, okay, what is here the status? Which are the folders we want to do? What's the settings in there? Do I have a network? What is the Office implementation? And we see what version we will have. You see that's a 64-bit version. That's the latest build as an insider. So therefore, okay, I have a version. It's far, far away. Sometimes it's a little bit problem. I'm talking, I think, twice a week with more than one, with the group, the product group at Microsoft. And the people has to say, yes, okay, it will work, but we have to see what happens. And sometimes they need also the OneDrive device ID and so on, because they'll look for the stuff and they need the information about that. That means it will take the second one, or the first one, and then you see it's a little bit more. You see, I have 320 gigs of 3 terabyte. It's an E3 plan here, and several things around that. Means although you see skill location that's here, that's another tenant who gives me the ability to synchronize stuff from her tenant. That's cross-tenant synchronization. Now it looks a little bit complicated, but you see although that the same thing, I use files on demand, means we will see that later. I have backup. I manage my files. I have to do it from a second monitor here. You see my desktop, my documents, and my pictures I also have in the cloud. Remember, leading system is the cloud, no longer your device. I have more than one device, no longer of your devices. That means if a device goes wrong, if the hard disk fails, whatever, you take a new, take a Windows on it, discuss where are my files, authenticate, and then the stuff comes again, because all things are there from a files perspective, not the programs and so on. Therefore, they will have it here with a file backup, but only from different folders. We have a network, we have the Office, the same, and you see always. It's a second instance. We have now here 3 instances of the OneDrive XE. So that was the first part of the demo. I start again my slide where we are starting here, and we look for that. Just a moment, bring it up. And have to rebuild here my stuff. So now we have to say, hey, that's ours. And now we have business to business. It's a too long story to talk about business to business. Means it's about 250 pages PDF document in Microsoft. From a short version. We can think about another tenant synchronization. We, in our tenant, may look for that, and then the people can synchronize inside here, but only have to, there is a trust building between these stuff, and therefore they can handle that I see all the stuff, and therefore you have to look. It's a little bit complicated. We need 60 minutes at least what's in there. But I only want to show there are still a little bit more. There are still possible to have a PowerPoint and save it to OneDrive Personal, or an Excel sheet to save it in OneDrive for Business directly. Because I can also say, and that's my work normally, Excel, and save it in Windows 10 with the associated OneDrive for Business version. So you can handle it directly here, or you can handle it for the synchronization. I save it on disk, and in the background, that will do and work. And therefore, it's the best way what we can do. Okay, going at means it's complicated, document library from Word and so on. You see, that's a lot of stuff. We can handle that. Means you can also have a document library sync completely. So sometimes if you are new in a company, or you are working for marketing and the people know that, they give you a machine And the admins have prepared that you have connect to the document library marketing directly. So the first thing, you come into the new company, you got the credentials, that's your first one, you have to change the credentials, okay, perfect. And then we show you to the team, making some visits at the company building, and you come back. All things are clear. The complete document library will be synced to Windows 10, and you are ready, and you do not have to show something. And if you have a community bot or a bot who says, where are the staircases, where are the meeting room, where are my coffee, and so on, then it's a perfect day. Then you can work immediately. So sometimes you have to look for that. But also in Windows 10, you have your OneDrive for Business. Each people have a OneDrive for Business. If you have an E3 plan, it starts with 1 terabyte, but you can have more than 1 terabyte. On the other hand, we can also some special things. That means if somebody gives you external connect to your OneDrive for Business, internal connect, sorry, from your company here, that means, okay, that lands also there, you see this stuff. But it could also be from an external contact. And if it's in a folder, you cannot share and sync to your machine if it's outside your organization and it's only a file. Put a file into a folder, share the folder to the other people outside your organization. Then this guy has a possibility to sync his stuff to his Windows 10. That was all the IFSA skill location. All data are there. It's still on their place, but I do not have to switch over to the browser and handle all the stuff. That's possible what we can. Cross-tenant synchronization. Looking a little bit more, we also still have an iOS. There is a difference, not only on iOS, also on Android. For this part, we have to look what's happened there. And that means iOS is only a look on that. You can handle that, but it's not a full sync synchronization. It's not in both parts. You can handle and save some stuff. It will automatically synced as I show. But normally I have that to say it's not on your iOS or Android device. Even if you say, I want to have it here and save it locally in my device. So that will work also for the document libraries. That will work not only in iOS, that will work in Android. And now we have the last one. Oh, I have to look for that. That's not good. That was a slide from the Microsoft 365 Friday, California, 2021. But thinking about Teams. In Teams, you have access to document library and your OneDrive for Business. And we'll see, hopefully, in the next 2-3 months, a little bit more in OneDrive for Business or in Teams, what happens integrated completely in Teams. Means it's a completely stuff, but all the things are there. And not how many people say, okay, we do not need SharePoint. We have now Teams, and Teams will work for us. No. Teams is only a client software which connect to Exchange if you chat, and connect also to SharePoint Online or to OneDrive for Business, whatever you want to handle this stuff and show it to you. And therefore it's different. If you sync the stuff to your local machine, yeah, then could be. In the old days, we will have it here because that means the red line means that we have some classic sync. That means we sync the data completely. And in one version, Windows version 10, 1709, it's 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, you see we have Windows files on demand. It's now activated and means, okay, it's a smoother transition because we have it only on your machine as a file name, as a placeholder. You also have that in macOS. And I have to simplify it a little bit with NTFS. That changed NTFS in this version 1709, and I simplify this stuff. There are still a little bit more. You have a file name there in NTFS in the FAT, and you also have a type. What is it? You have place for a small picture, and you see some attributes. They are new for them. And at least you have creation date of the file, modification date, and a pointer to the content. And this content also works if you point it to the content, to the content, to the content, to the content. So that's your complete picture, or that it's your complete file. And if you have this pointer, you have still these icons, local available and always available. Local available and always available. And you press a button, the right button in Windows Explorer, you can say free up space. And then this happens. Hey, it's only in the cloud. And this is very, very quick, because they only look at this procedure and say, okay, now it's done. I take a snapshot and look for a hash file for the length and look in the cloud, is there the same? And if it's the same, they say, okay, done. It's no synchronization, as many pictures or any descriptions you find in the internet. No, it's still there. You have it done. So if you click there on the file name, it comes back to this information. So what's the difference about here? This is, you can handle that. I handle that via group policy that might say, okay, it's a feature of Windows 10, and it looks in my environment each day if there is a modification dates -7 days. That means, okay, I have done nothing 7 days with the file. And then he says, okay, I do it automatically and space up or bring up space in my environment. Therefore, you can have petabytes on your small disk. That's possible. Here you see this stuff. And we can look at the author. That means cloud only, local available, and always available. If you are sitting in the airplane and you have no internet and you will work, and therefore you should also have it local available. But sometimes I don't know when this will work. There I say, okay, always available, and nothing in storage sense from Windows 10 will work with these files. They are always on your device. Means we have this stuff. That is although that we have NTFS with 2 new attributes, pinned, offline, unpinned. We don't have to remember that. That's an easy part. But sometimes they do it anew, and they do it via group policy. And the group policy say, okay, I can now exclude some specific kind of files from being uploaded. Hey, that looks very interesting. You can do it also without group policy, System Center, Intune, if you only want to check it on your machine. It's an easy part. But what does it mean? It's a group policy on a machine-based, and it's only for new files. So it's implemented as a wildcard procedure. *point PST, no PST files from now on. The old one, forget it. Will not go into the cloud. *sales point txt, *point text, means if you have a text file with the sales name in it, will not upload to the cloud. But no Office files, because remember, Office can speak directly with the cloud. And therefore, then we think again, okay, but therefore that I cannot handle that. Means if you have it on the machine, but do it a little bit quicker, you see what's in there and when it's blocked or synced. Synced means it's an Office file, therefore it's synced. TXT is not synced if you have it. And you see it and completely change it. You can see that in the files where it's synced and what you can handle with these white cards. It's very interesting to do that. So it works in OneDrive for Business, it works in OneDrive Personal, it works in SharePoint document libraries, shared with me, and add to OneDrive. So that means in your Explorer you have this icon, but you can change around and bring it up, and therefore means you can upload it manually, and then it will sync back and will sync. So it's not a security feature, you can handle that by yourself. Coming to the new one. So in the first generation, we have to say, okay, I have the complete marketing stuff with me. That's okay, but it's not so good. Therefore, it means so many files. I have some companies here in Germany, they have over 300,000 files. The Germans won't collect all. I must have it. But it's not a good thing because the machine has to work so much to sync all this stuff. Therefore, Microsoft came with an idea and call it add to OneDrive. But it's wrong. Okay, if you look for add shortcut to OneDrive, it's also wrong. The correct name is add shortcut to my files. Or if you have it done your work, remove shortcut from my files. Okay, want to show you. We have two users. I'm user A, and I want to show you for inside my company, and I want to say folder A2 I will share it with user B. So user B will have folder 1, B1, B2, B3, whatever he has, and folder A2. And user R has done that. So for the first time, if I share it with you, with B, user B has to say, okay, I look inside and see it shared with me, this folder. And then he can add and select these files and say, hey, add a shortcut to my files. So remember in the past, a shortcut we have on Windows, sometimes you have on a desktop, a shortcut to your application. Yes, you can rename that. And that's most interesting. But look at that. Okay, after add a shortcut, a difference because on the old one, you has to say, okay, in a big one where we have so much data, this directory, I want to have it. This directory and down the directory, but not the whole complete library. And that's different. And it will also do that on all machines you own. You know, an E5 license, you have up to 5 machines and your devices. So therefore, we have to look for that. Devices means, okay, if I connect it with add a shortcut to my files, means immediately on all different devices, it will come up. That's perfect. And if I've been ready with the work, I can say remove the files there. And also I can rename the folder and it will come up on all devices immediately, but only the folder on the root. I will show you there. If you remove the shortcut, all files also will be removed. In the past, syncing all the stuff, say, okay, I want to have it not anymore. It's still on your machine. You have to remove the files personally by hand. So therefore, Microsoft do that. I do it not only with my files from my user to another user. They also can say, okay, there is a document library. I'm a member of the document library as user A, and I will share only D3 as a folder and above to this user B. That's the same thing we can have with the same methodology what we have, add a shortcut to my files, and you can remove and work there. That's absolutely the same. And if we see that, so we see there, that's okay, I select it and press the add shortcut button and it's added. That's all. But syncing, it's a little bit more than we have to see, hey, where are the files? How do they look? And the best thing is I do it with my iPhone. So there you see here is a symbol that shows you up. So this symbol shows is an add shortcut to my files. And you can also have and press the button and say, okay, remove. That's the same thing that you say, I'm done. And it's not only here on all your devices that will also done. There is some error messages. If you have synced in the old way, you cannot have it with the same new technology. Only one technology will work. Therefore, you have to look for your devices. Hey, I have synced there. I have to press the button and say delete and then go off. And then you can say, okay, now I can save the new one. So therefore, but add the shortcut to OneDrive only for all people in your organization. No external stuff. Maybe it comes in the future. Any folder from OneDrive, any folder from any SharePoint document library, you may get an error if you already sync data, as I mentioned before, through shared with me. For external users, you have to share a folder. I also have mentioned that with files with you, you still must use the old synchronization method. thinking for looking there, that's the old way. We have to say automatically SharePoint library 1 to user 1 and 2. Then it looks, it's here. I can do it manually, go in there, press the button. That's the SharePoint library, press the sync button we have there. That's the old-fashioned way. If I do it in a new way, I have to say, okay, I only want to have a different device. I'm in there, and then I press add shortcut to my files. So you still will have the sync button in Teams, but people want to say, hey, why is there no add shortcut to my files? Because it's always the root file. And therefore, you have to go to SharePoint, switch in Teams to SharePoint, look for the folder you want to have, and then bring the button add shortcut to my files. So that's a different one, and that will not come. A sync button can be automatically do the organization, add shortcut will not the possibility. So a little bit more computer. You see, I make symbols although with computer group policies. You will not have that. And Microsoft has to say to me after 10 years, and I make it a little bit more, I have to say, oh yeah, we want to have the file. That was very interesting. And I will talk only about one. That's a new one I have created. That means sync admin reports. That's a computer configuration. You still will not have anything on the functionality. You cannot see that. It's only for the insiders in the first time. And you still, for the information, what you will have, you have an apps admin center. And first you have to say, okay, we need from the admin center some stuff. And that means we have to point it out via a group policy. That is the part I have to show. Intune with an endpoint manager, system center, whatever. And you say, okay, first we do starting with the sales guys. Bring the stuff into each machine. Each machine of this will done. Then the next will come, for example, finance, marketing, and so on. That means not all the people in your complete company with 50,000 people has to be there. It must be in steps. So that was the first thing. And then they call it immediately from herself to the apps admin center. And then you see the stuff here. I show it here. Then you see, sorry, I don't have the information in English, but that means no synchronization errors. 40% have these KFM files for backup implemented. 100%, all of the machines work with the actual stuff. So looking for that, you see all the information here. Okay, that's my wife, that's me. I have different machines and they are all without any error. And you see who is working with the app version. And also one is the last status of the synchronization and so on. So I implemented this stuff I have seen in a personal show because on the Microsoft Ignite 2019. And I remember what I have to do. It's not so easy to have a synchronization, but I have the information and I have done it. I have to look in my brain. What was it? Oh, yes, I have done it. And now you see it here. That's the thing that we have to look for. That means I have an error. Oh, 2 errors. Perfect. I have to click there. And then you see here, that's the user, Hans Brender. That's Surface 09. That's the machine. There is running Windows 10 on it. You see the information of OneDrive, which version is there, the ID of that, when it's the last synchronization, last status of that, what's the known folders we have to sync from there, and the errors. So the first one we don't have to discuss, but the second one, this is a name of the element, has not a character. So if you have a leading space in your name, text.txt, and you say it's renamed, you cannot have it on a normal thing, but you have to do it during your command line. And you say, okay, space text.txt. Then he says immediately, hey, you have an error. But now the people can say, the support can say, okay, Hans, I have a call. Your name on this machine and you got some error there. Listen to that. That's proactive. We can do and handle that. So the last one about that is the community bot for OneDrive. Community bot, It's a little bit a special thing. So sometimes 2 years ago in Vienna, I have to criticize 2 of my colleagues and I have to say, I don't find this good or not good. The MVPs together always give the real phantasm, not the good things. I give you 5. We discuss several things. And I have to discuss with them about a but I'm far, far away. And then after some chins at the hotel bar, they say, okay, we want to digitize you or your knowledge. And I say, yeah, you have an idea? Come on. And after 3 months later, they say, okay, here are the mock-up. And then we start. They showed me, this was in Munich at Microsoft on a SharePoint Saturday, and they showed me the first mock-up, and then the work will begin. With an Excel sheet later on with QN, but the real interesting thing is the bot never sleeps. The bot now is not 50 languages. We still have only 2 languages. That was a problem with Bing, with the translation of the stuff. You see here, it's in 2 languages, but it's although that's QNR, that means that's markdown language. You have to write star, that's why I also offer workshop, blah, 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 point, star, and the ampersand and all this stuff. That means, yes, it runs in Teams, and I will show you this part, and then we come to the end. So we have to look for this, and we have to look for a community bot. Normally, you do not have it. You have to go. It was a long, long journey, and without the vice president of the OneDrive group, and with the help, we would not have it. Normally, they say, okay, Mr. OneDrive Spot. No, branding. We cannot have that. That was a long discussion. And then the vice president comes over and say, okay, what about a community bot? Talking to people is good, but talking to other people, and we have now 145 million daily active users. And there are several people who do not know what OneDrive is. For them, they can say, okay, I have to go here. Sometimes you split that you have not able to do that. But if they have able, we can also ask to the people OneDrive, and you see the community bot. That was a name that we have to give. And although my colleagues have a lot of event, and you see that's also a possibility, but I have implemented here, it runs as a chatbot and it runs in 2 languages. And I can say, okay, what's 64-bit? So they took it in the behind. I haven't written it down in the not correct language, but you see, hey, the 64-bit version of OneDrive is all available. You see all the stuff, you see my blog post, and the rest is more information about that, although at Microsoft. Microsoft original post and my own post you will have there. And you can also have, okay, add to OneDrive. And it will comes up with the correct answer. Add shortcut to my files. And you have, although you do not have, there are differences. Okay, you see here some follow-up questions. That means you do not have to type in difference classic to speed to sync, and you will get the information in completely. With the files, with the logos, whatever you want to have, it will come in different things. It runs in each Teams. This star, you have this white space, is a bug. If you are working with a mobile version, you will not have this space. It's not up to me, it's up to Microsoft Teams, and we are working on that. So you can have all the question, what is, let's say, sometimes people do not know that for Knox. And we do not talk about the gold. We talk about the security. We talk about this stuff, and you see a video if you want to have it from Microsoft about this security stuff. And if we are talking, we also have several points directly to the Microsoft Docs library, or although about library, you see you can have it. We have now 650, I think, questions. And there are so many answers about that you will also have this stuff. From the beginners although to the expert. Means, are there any group policies sorry. I have to say group policies, that's okay. And you see, it's although that will come up with the group policies, with storage sense group policies, what I have to show you. And although you can have it from one to them, it's although for the people internally who have not an idea what's internal, what you can have. So that's the thing with the community bot for OneDrive. And if I say, and people know, for example, Jeff Teeper, that's the godfather of SharePoint, and I tell them the community bot is now running in Teams, and he says, who are the other people? That's two of my MVP colleagues in Austria, and one is an AI MVP, the other is a developer MVP, and it says, Clay, great. And if we, that Jeff Teeper says, and if we do and pull something new out, you have to implement this stuff, and then it's available around the globe. I say, yes. Has done 10 seconds, he has understand this block, what he is doing. So going back to the slides, to the last slide, slideshow, and look for that. The slides you have available. Second. Slides are available. You see that here. You can make a photo. I can make on the bit.ly OneDrive 210519. That's the day today. And under this, you have the slides absolutely available. You can download it and make your own things. And if you have any questions and any feedback, you know, here are the thank you. That means my thank you that you listen to this stuff, and I hope you bring some new ideas what you can have. No question, all questions will be answered, but I have questions around the globe. The best thing is start with Twitter or go on the blog. Most of my blog are although there, and you find that in this section with hansbrender.com. And this part, if I write a blog, I also see that the community bot will have the same information about that or a dialogue, because I do not have to write it twice. So therefore, it's the same interesting. Means that's all. I have to say thank you, and I give it back to Chirag.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Hans. Really appreciate it. That was good as ever, and because I've seen this presentation, obviously with less updates than what you had today. So always good to see you, and giving all the latest. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And I'm just looking through the questions. I don't believe we have, which basically means that you did a perfect job. You answered everyone's questions. And
maybe they are looking at Teams if it's running.
Well,
the thing is with the community bot is very interesting. We have now in the first 4 weeks about, I think, 1,500 new users. And now we are working on the second stuff to bring the information more closely, because we do not record anything, nothing. But right. Now we want to listen what they are doing, because some people say, the administration have no idea what I'm talking. The thing is, we are administrators, we are IT guys, but sometimes the people has no information. What is OneDrive? What is OneDrive for business? This simple question. I'm shy. I do not want to give them a question. Now you can do that, because this is a bot. Sometimes you have to change a little bit. AI is looking for the right answer you have.
Yeah, no, that's. Because it's early days, I guess, there's always that kind of perception of the users when they want to try to embrace that. So you got to give time, right? You got to build it, so and develop that. So now that's great work, and really pleased to see that, and being part of that community is in terms of what's happening and following that closely. So as honored as ever I am with not just the bot but also all the other tools that are being built. So good stuff. Please welcome back to the second part of the M365 UK. I hope you've had a kind of great learnings in the earlier session with Hans Brender from Germany on all things OneDrive. So we thank him for that, for his time and effort to be here. And the next sessions we have now is all about the patterns and practices with all the SharePoint solutions and the great community resource that we have. And and I'm really, I guess, privileged and honored to have David Warner too, Beau Cameron, Hugo Bernier, and Chris Kent. And I follow you folks just like many of us with all the solutions and all the monthly regular community calls that you do. So and I've also built solutions, some of them using the community source code you have. So really great to have you here, and really kind of just we have about 70 attendees registered for this event today. So I'm hoping they'll take a lot of things away from your session. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to yourselves and take it away.
Awesome, thanks. Well, I'm going to go and share right now. So let me know if you can see the title slide.
Yes, I can see the slide, and yep, go ahead.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for having us today. This is Team Up with the Microsoft 365 PnP community and become a SharePoint All-Star. So we appreciate the UK user group having us today. My name is David Warner. I am a Microsoft MVP PnP team member, work for Compatibility Systems, big fan of the community. As you can see with the fun animation there, set everybody ablaze with the desire to want to interact and collaborate. Big sports fan as well, but love collaborating with everyone in the community. So please don't let this be the only time that we interact. Please don't hesitate to reach out. There's my Twitter and my email address. One of my co-presenters today is Hugo Bernier. Hugo? Hugo? Bernier?
Is this sound working?
Maybe his sound is not working, or he's delayed in some way.
Is my sound working now?
It is now, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Sorry about that. Hi everyone. My name is Hugo Bernier. I'm a former Microsoft MVP. I am a current member of the Patterns and Practices team, and I've recently joined Microsoft. I'm a huge fan of the community, so I'm always happy to help. Don't hesitate to reach out to me via Twitter or through my blog at tahoeninjas.blog. And our next speaker, actually, some people call him Mr. SharePoint Designer, is Beau Cameron.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Hi, everyone. My name is Beau Cameron. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm a member of the PnP team. I work closely on the PnP starter kit and then also on the issues list. If you're in any of the community forums, tech community, Facebook, Reddit, you probably have seen me there as well. I like all things SharePoint and SharePoint development, and I'm happy to be here. Our next speaker is the horse whisperer himself, Chris Kent.
Hello, everyone, or good day, or something. I don't know. Is that racist? Might be. Or is that Australian? So then it is racist. I don't know. Either way, hi, everybody. I'm Chris. I'm an MVP. I'm on the PnP team as well. Here we go.
All right, these aren't the droids you're looking for, by the way. Our agenda today that we're going to talk about is what is patterns and practices. There are 3 tenets that drive us on the patterns and practices team: learn, reuse, and share. We're going to talk about how all the resources are available for free to you to take advantage of, in which you can learn. Then you're going to be able to take the resources that we have and use them. So don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of resources available to you to be able to take advantage of and implement into a production environment if needed. And then we're going to talk about how you can share back. You can contribute back, you can provide demos, you can get involved and collaborate with others in the community, and that's really probably our favorite part. Of course, we've got all the Star Wars crew here. The community is strong with the PnP team, so it can be hard to keep up with technology, though. It's ever changing. Hugo, how hard can it be?
Well, it used to be a lot easier when we used to work on premise, where we had control over updating our servers, and we could control what technologies or what features were enabled. But the statistics used to show that some servers used to take up to 9 months before they would be patched. So now that we're moving in the cloud, the frequency of updates is obviously increasing. This is an update history of the Microsoft 365 app as per the Microsoft documentation. And you can see in 2016, 2017, there was 1 update. 2018, we started with 10 updates. And then after that, we quadrupled the number of updates that we had to deal with. That means you have 4 times less time that you can spend on testing the new features and making sure that it's up to date. And then if you're a developer, that's actually worse. If we look at the next slide, There you go. So if you're a developer and you're trying to keep up with the SharePoint framework, there's updates. When it started, there was an average of 6 updates a year. Now, since COVID, we've only had 2 updates, but I think that pace will pick up in 2021. But again, so that means that every 2 months you have to relearn or update, your solutions and things like that. It's really difficult, and that's why. Sure, you can do everything on your own. You can try to keep up on your own, but you can also use the patterns and practices opportunity initiatives to actually stay up to date.
Well, and you might be wondering, what exactly is the Patterns and Practices initiatives or programs? Well, it is a collection of Microsoft MVPs and Microsoft employees within the community administering a number of different technological and community-driven initiatives under the PNP umbrella. That being said, there are over 1,300 worldwide contributors that fall into the Patterns and Practices community. So it's a vast community. We joke that the sun never sets. It's worldwide. There are no boundaries. There are no business limitations. We work together as a community to make better things available, better resources and tools available to everyone, better opportunities, and really it is one of the best communities out there. It was actually referenced or awarded as a reference model for community engagement by Microsoft. You can see some of the statistics that went into making that happen. Over 800 samples, 100,000 tenants, 80,000 GitHub visitors, 2.8 million watch time minutes of the various Patterns and Practices movies, videos that are created from the community calls or training videos. That means that people are looking for opportunities to learn and collaborate. But these numbers don't happen by themselves. They happen because everyone in the community, such as yourself, has such amazing willingness to contribute and work together to collaborate and make the projects and resources better. So we're going to walk through some of the opportunities that we have there today. We're going to begin with the learning of what is available. We're going to talk about some of the things that are available. And for that, let's turn it over to Beau Cameron. You're muted.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, David. So we have lots of resources available. If you're looking to get some more knowledge on top of, let's say, Microsoft Docs or what your current knowledge set is, we have monthly community calls that happen on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So if you have interest in Microsoft Teams, SharePoint development, Power Apps, Adaptive Card, these calls get hosted on a bi-weekly basis. We have product group updates from the Microsoft team, so they'll let us know what the roadmap looks like going forward. They can answer questions if you have any about previous updates. We also have samples and community demos. So people in the community, let's say on a SharePoint framework call, have built a really cool web part or an extension and want to share it with everyone else. We usually do demos on these calls as well. And lastly, it's a great community, lots of good people on these calls. We have like 250 people show up, and there's lots of really good conversations, and it's a great way to just interact with the community. Now, if you can't make these calls, we have lots of other resources available as well. One of those initiatives is the community docs, and this is headed by Mark Anderson. And basically, it's an extension of the Microsoft Docs. So you've probably read Microsoft documentation before. You might not have been too thrilled or enthusiastic after you read that. You kind of walk away, maybe not understanding everything. So what we have done is we've established a new repository for community docs, which really takes into consideration real world experience. So rather than a document on what are content types, we have a document on how to actually implement content types and why it's important and how it's important to implement them in your organization. So this is a great resource if you're looking for some extended documentation on all the things that we work with every day. So I highly recommend checking that out. Now, you might not be able to attend our calls, and that's okay. If you can't, we record everything and we post them on our YouTube. As David mentioned before, we have 2.8 million minutes viewed of our YouTube channel. We have lots of samples. We have lots of demos. We have tutorials, and then every community call that we have is posted there. So you can always catch back up if you miss one of those bi-weekly calls and see what's happening in the community and see what's happening within the Microsoft stack as it pertains to Microsoft 365. Now, we also started last year the first Pnp virtual conference. This is a free conference you can attend where we highlight all the initiatives that we have, from our documentation, our tools, our videos, things like that. And if you missed it last year, we also posted that on our YouTube as well, so you can catch back up. Maybe you use Pnp Powershell or you've used Pnp Js. We have sessions on all the updates we have done and what the roadmap looks like going forward. So that's a really great resource as well.
We also have, if you're the kind of person that likes to learn by example, we have tons of samples. Well, maybe not tons, hundreds of them. And, you know, all these samples are available through a sample browser that is available, or a sample gallery. We have a sample gallery for web parts, for extensions, for Power Platform, for Teams, and a list formatting samples. So as you can see, you can filter by the framework you want to use, you can search by author, you can search by topic, and then when you click on the samples, you can actually just go directly to the sample itself. Another way you can filter for a SharePoint framework web part is by version or by compatibility. So if you're looking for something that works only for SharePoint 2019 or 2016, or Teams or Outlook, you can actually find those samples right there for you. The whole idea here is to create an environment where when you have to do a new development task, you feel that the first place and the best place to go to is to those sample galleries. So we strongly recommend you go take a look at them, and we'll talk later about how you can contribute to them as well.
Now, one of the most popular samples available that is much more than a sample, it's actually a production-worthy solution, is the content query web part. We may remember this from Classic. It was out of the box, but it utilized XSL. Not really big fans of XSL, most everyone in the community. It was confusing. It was 1.0, so it wasn't even the newest version, and it was limited in how you could utilize it to create a presentation layer. Well, in modern, it has gone out of the box, but the community has our back. And as we can see walking through here, it has been recreated in a React solution as a web part. And as you can see, it not only allows you to pull information in from a list or library, but now it's actually cross-site collection, which it never was in Classic. So you can define the list, you can define the columns that you would like here by selecting them. As you can see, a lot of the other features are still standard, things like limiting the number of items to display, filters, sorting, very powerful. Now, the big departure from XSL, what makes this special is that it uses Handlebars. Now, if you're not familiar with Handlebars, it's just a templating engine for HTML, meaning that you can write what you want this to look like in plain HTML. Inside of your Handlebar templates, you just write plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we'll see an example of that in a moment as the animation catches up. It's going to show us how we can get into a template and identify how we would like our HTML to look, looping through the list items. And one of the newest features added to this is Microsoft Graph Toolkit compatibility, and this is how we see the template content. So very powerful. It'll pull in from the MGT or Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Those are pre-baked components by Microsoft that do a lot of work for us and match all of the out of the box SharePoint experience that we would like to have, so we don't have to recreate that wheel. Super powerful. You can see making these changes is as easy as that. Bam, an update was occurred, and we're in familiar territory when we're writing out our handlebars, and you can create a custom handlebar as we just saw. So super powerful. One of the other extremely powerful tools that are available and constantly getting new investment by Microsoft is list formatting. So for that, no one better to talk to us about than Chris Kent.
All right. So if you're using any kind of Microsoft product, so say Microsoft Lists, or you got SharePoint Online, or you got the Teams, or even SharePoint 2019, then you are very familiar with the idea of a list, right? And by default, most of those lists look like boring Excel online, right? So thankfully, with list formatting, which covers both column formatting, view formatting, and form formatting now, you can quickly and easily do things like instant meaning. So if we take a look at what's on the screen here, we can see that we've got the full list. What we've done is we know who you are. So go ahead and click that, Hugo, or whoever's clicking. Click there. We go. So this is like a task list, right? So a yes, no field makes sense. Sometimes it's showed as yes or no, but on a task list, it makes a lot more sense to represent it as done or not done. So we've added a checkbox here. And we can also do things like highlight due dates, right? So when the item has a due date and it's overdue, make it red, make it obvious, draw people's attention to it. But you can also do nice things like visual appeal. So you can participate in the themes that are available, and those will work nicely across site collections, right? Wherever you're copying this within Microsoft Lists or even Microsoft Teams, even the dark themes or your custom corporate themes, and you can do all of that without having to change your format at all. And then, of course, you can do dynamic visualizations. So the idea, you can always have a view that's just your items, but then you lose the context of the whole list, right? So one of the things you can do is highlight just those items that are assigned to you, and we'll do that dynamically based on who was viewing the list at the time. You can also do things like dynamic progress bars or gauges or pie charts or all sorts of awesome things. There's a ton of visualizations available to you. There's a whole lot of other directions you can go in terms of actions and integrations and everything else. So check all that out. Let's go ahead and one more here. So if you're looking to get started, the number one way is this sample repo we've got available to you. You don't have to do any GitHub magic things. You can actually cut and paste right from the browser right onto your list. And we've got 100+ samples here for you from all over the community and Microsoft itself. So please come check this out. This is the best way to learn this stuff. Grab this stuff, break it, figure out what you did, and then how to make it your own. Okay.
Awesome. And finally, we have the SharePoint starter kit. So we had released this back in 2018, and we've kind of had a new iteration of it that we released last year, where we upgraded this to a newer version of SharePoint framework. So what it is a end-to-end solution that demonstrates how to build SharePoint framework solutions, how to build kind of an internet in a box or deployment mechanism for all of those SharePoint framework solutions as well. So it really is an end-to-end provisioning engine that also has a lot of really great samples inside of it that teach you how to use Microsoft Graph, Toolkit, how to use Microsoft Graph APIs, how to do Teams development. And we try to keep it aligned with the lookbook. So if there's ever a new update with the lookbook, we try to incorporate those styles and designs into the starter kit as well. So what's inside of it? Well, it's got 16 SharePoint framework web parts, some that pull from Microsoft Graph, some that pull just from SharePoint lists. We have 5 extensions for command sets, global navigation, footer links. We also include an example of how to build a library component in there, if you've ever done that with SharePoint Framework. And then it includes 3 Pnp provisioning templates. So when you deploy this out, it's going to deploy a hub site, 2 team sites attached to it, and then configuring a bunch of pages as well. So if you are an ISV or a developer who's building in the enterprise and you want to see how you can develop code and then package it, deploy it out, and have pre-built sites with your web parts on it, this is a great solution for it. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you a quick little demo. All right, so if you go to github.com/pnp/sp-starter-kit, this is the repository for the starter kit currently. You'll see that there's a bunch of code on top. All the code, the Pnp templates exist in here. And then we have, I'm sorry, my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear that. We have the pre-requirements. So you'll want to make sure that you read this. There's some things that have to be in place, like a tenant app catalog. You have to be a term store admin. And if you scroll down, you'll see all the web parts and solutions that exist in it. So we have banner web parts. We have a web part to show your followed sites. We have a new links web part that allows you to group links together. We have a people directory, personal calendar, and contacts that come from Microsoft Graph. So there's lots of stuff in here. So if you want to reuse some of these in your own environment, you can. If you're looking to see how these are constructed because you are a developer, you have full access to the source code, and you can pull it down, make any changes that you want. So to get started, you'll basically just go up to the top. You can clone the repository, or you can download a zip and then unpackage that. In PowerShell, you'll need Pnp Powershell. We're going to connect to our SharePoint Online site. So I got connect Pnp Online to cameracode.sharepoint.com. I'm going to navigate to my provisioning folder of my solution. So if you look in here, there's a provisioning folder, and inside of that, it has some .pnp. These are actual templates. They're basically XML that define what's going to get deployed, what the page structures look like, any configuration settings as well. We'll navigate to that, and then we'll call invoke Pnp tenant template, and we'll do a path to starterkit.pnp. This takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It's going to run through this template and then deploy all these resources out to your environment. So what it looks like is it's going to build a Contoso electronic site. It's going to give you a hub site. So we have our hub navigation on top. We also have 2 department sites that have been created. Some things you'll see is that we actually have news posts that have been built. So it provisioned out some pre-built site pages. You'll also see some custom web parts. So we have My Task coming from Microsoft To Do or from Planner. We also have your recent documents and other types of web parts that are really handy to use. So I would highly recommend, if you're looking into learning about how to construct web parts, how to deploy them into your tenant, how to use Pnp provisioning, this is a great solution for you to explore. All the web parts in here are also linked in the samples repository that Hugo referenced before. So you can go to its gallery and search for any of them and then get access to that code.
All right, awesome. Let me take back over the screen share for the presentation. And now we're going to move into the reuse opportunity. So we're going to move from learn. You've kind of introduced you to some of the opportunities and the resources that are available. And we're going to now talk about how you can reuse some of the solutions that are available to you, what APIs are available, command line interface tools, lots more goodies for you. And for that, we'll go right back to Beau Cameron.
Awesome, thanks. So while some samples can definitely be used in your production environment, what we're going to show next are tried and true, battle-tested frameworks and tools by the community, by the Pnp team that you definitely can use in your environments. Now, if you're familiar with Pnp, you're probably familiar with Pnp Powershell. There have been it's a command line tool that allows you to do a lot of customizations on top of your SharePoint environment, which Chris will demo at later in the call. But one thing that we want to note is that there were updates to this that was upgraded to .NET Standard, and some new updates on the API calls inside. So we only support SharePoint Online with the new Pnp Powershell. It's not supported in the on-premise environments. The second command line tool that we have is CLI for Microsoft 365. It's a really handy tool that works alongside with Pnp Powershell. One of the coolest features of that is the ability to upgrade your SharePoint framework solution. So if you've been developing SharePoint framework for a while, you might know that doing an upgrade from like 1.4.1 to 1.7 is kind of a pain. And so there is an upgrade command within that utility that you basically point it at your solution and say, I want to upgrade this to whatever version that you want. And it's going to give you all the steps that you have to take to upgrade that to the newest version of SharePoint framework. So these are really cool, handy tools. And again, Chris will be doing a demo of one of them later in the call.
On the development tool, there's quite a few development tools that are available to you. If you've ever done SharePoint framework development, you know that there's a Yeoman generator available from Microsoft, but the options that are available out of the box or readily available from the Yeoman generator are somewhat limited. The Pnp SPFx Yeoman generator is a Yeoman generator that goes on top of the existing SharePoint generator, but it adds more features. So it adds things like handlebars, view, Angular, knockout, and things like that. It also adds unit testing, CI/CD integration, all sorts of really cool features that I personally, as the world's laziest developer, I just use this tool to actually add these features. Now, if you're worried that you're going to miss out on something because you're using something other than the Microsoft SPFx Yeoman generator, don't worry. The Pnp SPFx Yeoman generator works on top again, as I said. So it calls the out-of-the-box one and then adds additional features to that. We also have a Teams Yeoman generator, which does the same thing, but for creating Teams solution. We also have the Microsoft Teams Toolkit, the Pnp Js, which our friend Chris will demo later, the Core SDK, and SP Formatter. And again, we're going to show you demos of these later. Now, there are also reusable controls. Now, if you know me, you know that I always insist on making sure that SPFx solutions should always look like they belong to SharePoint. Your users should never have to relearn a whole new user interface just because you wanted to use something like Bootstrap or something like that. By using the Pnp reusable controls, you're able to actually build SharePoint web parts that look like they belong to Microsoft, that they were written by Microsoft, because a lot of them are just reverse engineered versions of the controls that they use internally. So something like the placeholder control, the chart controls, the accordion controls, and so on and so forth. I strongly recommend them. They're super easy to add to your projects. And then there's also field controls. So if you want to render data in a list, you can actually use custom field renderers to actually override how the data is rendered for things like taxonomy, dates, and again, there's lots of those things there. Now, that was covering the body of the web part. On the configuration side of the web part, there's also reusable controls that help you customize the property pane, that thing that pops out when you hit configure on the web part. So there's lots of types of property pane controls, like an editable code control, color control, date control, file picker, and all sorts of other things like that. You have Teams picker, taxonomy pickers, field picker, all sorts of stuff. I strongly recommend, again, that you play with that. Again, you can write your own code yourself, and you could reinvent these controls yourself, but why not leverage these controls and then focus really on the value-added activity, the stuff that makes your web part fun and unique. Next.
All right, so if you're like, well, anyone, you've probably got a few classic pages out there, right? Unless you just signed up in the past year or so. And even then, you probably got some that snuck in there, right? So if you're stuck with a bunch of classic pages, most likely thousands of them, whether that's in on-premises environments or it's in SharePoint Online, you're going to want to take advantage of some of the new modern features of the modern sites, right? That's where all the investment is. That's where all the cool, shiny new toys are. So to get there can be quite challenging, right? So if you use something like the modernization framework here, you can use something called the modernization scanner. And what it'll do is take a look at your environment, give you an idea of everything that needs to be modernized, including workflows, publishing pages, all that stuff. You get a nice little report on that, but it'll actually help you do that as well. So one of the things you can do is you can set up a mapping for all your web parts, your page layouts and everything, right? Whether those are custom web parts or not, or just specific ones like content by query web parts that you want to upgrade to the new search web parts that we showed up earlier. All of that's possible here, and you can run those directly either through Pnp Powershell or the Pnp Core Sdk, or you can even run those through a ribbon, right? If you want to have people opt in, you can give them a ribbon button on those classic pages. They can hit that. It's going to show them the modern version of the page, and they can choose to keep it or not. Or you can just do it all automatically across the board. So it is awesome. I've done this myself directly from SharePoint 2010 publishing pages with custom layouts and a bunch of custom web parts, all mapped directly into Office 365. And it went really, really well, and it's awesome. So check that out if you're like me and you've got that going on. Okay. And then mention this, the Pnp Core Sdk. If you are a .NET developer, right, whether you're using Azure Functions or you've got a straight up console app or WinForms or who knows what you've got going on, right? You can use this as a NuGet package, and when you add this, it's going to add a bunch of stuff for the client-side object model. It's going to extend methods and add new methods that make things way, way easier to interact with SharePoint. In fact, I will tell you from experience, don't try and do anything with taxonomy without this, right? And generally, maybe don't do anything with taxonomy from the CSUN perspective anyway. But this thing is awesome. This is what's behind Pnp Powershell. Super, super powerful. All right. Next. There we go. So Pnp Powershell. So if you've heard of Pnp before, you've probably heard of Pnp Powershell. So this thing is huge. It is awesome. This is perfect for tenant administration. You're doing remote provisioning, right, where you're getting those site templates and so on. The new version is Office 365 only, but there are legacy versions for far back as 2013. You're going to use this in combination with the SharePoint PowerShell. And it's going to run from your machine. But this thing has got, 430 plus commandlets. Let's take a look. Look at all these categories of these things. It's awesome. It's huge. It's got great coverage for all sorts of things that you want to do. So whether you are, on the admin side, or even you're a power user or a developer, you're going to use this. I use this all the time. Let's take a look at a real quick demo of that and see what we can do. So let me switch over to my screen here. All right, just let me know when you guys can see it. Oh, I got to hit the buttons. It's very difficult. All right. We good? We good? Woo, woo.
Yep,
these
see
voices. All right, thanks, everybody. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got VS Code up here because the new version of Pnp PowerShell is using 7, so I can't use that the old ISE like I like. But luckily in VS Code, you can actually PowerShell enable ISE mode by hitting F1 there. And what that's going to do is going to bring out that familiar blue and white that we all love so much, but it's also going to bring over this nice PowerShell Command Explorer, which is going to make it a lot easier to kind of figure out what's going on with our various PowerShell commandlets. Oh, good. That's all right. We'll come back to that part and see if it ever finishes. But the idea is here, I can type in all sorts of things, or I can run a script. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm going to connect to Pnp Online. All right, in this case, I'm just going to connect to my site over here. So my Warrior Horses site. /site/Warrior Horses, like we all have. Oh, and I'm going to cancel that because I meant to do interactive. So let's try that again and put a -interactive on the end. And what that's going to do is going to prompt you in a little pop-up window here. And I'm going to pick my account. There we go. That's the one. And this helps with multi-factor authentication and all sorts of other advanced scenarios. And there we go. And once we connect once, we shouldn't have to do that again. So now we've connected, but we could do things like, get Pnp list, right, where we just want to get all of our lists. All right, so that's super easy. We just connected. We're gonna have a meeting coming up. All right, so that's pretty awesome. But now we can also do things like add Pnp page, right? So we do that, and we call this thing, what are we? UK Fun, we'll call it that. All right, and we'll just add a page there. And if we go over to our, well, it's executing, we'll head over to our site contents, our pages library, site pages library. We should have a brand new entry here. If we scroll down here, UK Fun, right? If we check out that page, not a lot going on because we just created it, but you could do cool things like add Pnp Page, text part, right? We'll just say our page is what, UK Fun. And we're going to say our text is wowee. All right, we'll run that. And then if we refresh this page over here, we should see wowee, and that's pretty exciting. But we can also do cool things like add Pnp Page Section, right? And we're going to say our page is, of course, UK Fun. And we're going to say our section template is, let's add it as 2 columns. That sounds great. That we can also do things like set our section background colors and all sorts of things directly from here when we add that. And then we can add a Pnp Page Web part. All right, we'll say our page is UK Fun as well. And then we're going to say our default web part type is we're just going to add like a countdown. That sounds exciting. Oops, we'll go back one. I'm just hitting tab to scroll through all those options. All right, so now we've added a countdown to the page. Very, very cool. Right, I could also specify the section and the column and all of that other kind of stuff if I wanted. But we can also do things like, let's do that exact same thing, but instead this time we're going to add the big map, and we're going to say web part properties. And I'm just going to paste that because I've already got that already there. But then I can paste that in, and I can configure my web parts exactly like I want. I can do that dynamically from a script, whatever it is. I've got project sites I'm trying to spin up. I've already got this set to Knoxville, Tennessee in the US. That's where I live. But you can see there's a lot of power in this. So we write this all as a script that's executing off of various jobs, run it directly from an Azure function, whatever we want here. So, and this is literally the tip of the iceberg here. I don't know why I said literally, but it is the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more this stuff can do. If you haven't started using this, please check it out. All right, back to you guys.
All right, let me reshare the slides. And everything that Chris showed off, you can have yourself, aka.ms/pnp-PowerShell. So actually, it looks like it ended. Someone else started sharing and said, let me try that again. Can you confirm you see it?
Yes, I see the thread.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay. All right, you still see it okay? Because it keeps telling me my presentation has ended. All right.
Yeah, you're
so,
good.
aka.ms/pnp-PowerShell. Next up is Pnp Js. Now, this is super powerful. Fluent API, batching, caching. It does no secret magic. It is not doing anything that you do not have access to do your own. But why would you? Because it's writing and simplifying everything for you. It's kind of like how jQuery was to the DOM in JavaScript. Was only using JavaScript behind the scenes, but made it easy to manipulate the DOM back in the day. Pnp Js is the same. It makes it easy to interact with SharePoint in terms of your list data. It has over 4 billion requests per month, so it is not some fly-by-night solution that you're going to rely on and come in the next morning and find out that it's broke. Batching and caching are significant empowerments. And so if we look at the functionality, we can see that there's a variety of features available. Fluent API for SharePoint, REST, rollup. And Chris, why don't you talk us through this traditional approach of string concatenation?
Yeah, so if you're doing any kind of REST API, we've all written little libraries that try and build these URLs for us, right? But part of the problem is there's no real validation on it. So it's very, very easy to make a mistake. So we can see this kind of traditional approach. We've very easily forgotten the underscore on the beginning of our API, and we forgot our ampersand when we're, putting our query strings together. So one of the immediate benefits you're going to get is if you're using something like VS Code, you can see as we type, we get this Fluent API. And so as I type, I'm going to get IntelliSense. It's going to tell me all the REST endpoints that are out there, which are not always easy to remember, and again, very easy to mistype. And what that's going to do is it's going to prevent you from having errors that show up, months later, because nobody used that, like the delete function, until a couple months after you deployed, right? But then you had a typo, and you had no idea because one, you're bad at testing, but two, just because you were using the string concatenation. So using something like the Fluent API here is going to make that a lot easier, just because it's going to catch those errors right at runtime. So one of the other things here David mentioned is the idea of batching. So if you've ever tried to do a batch with the REST API, you probably quit your job and became a farmer, and that's very, very sad. But if you use something like Pnp Js, you can literally type on the end of this, where we're doing this get files or get list, we could say in batch, and it's going to take care of handling all of the communication, with the SharePoint side, and bringing that back and dividing those out into the promises so we can interact with that directly without having to do a thing. And with caching, how many times have you written a caching library? No more. It's on by default in Pnp Js, and it's very, very easy to configure. And so you no longer have to do that either. So I use this all the time, anytime I'm trying to do any kind of JavaScript interaction with SharePoint. All right, so if you're doing any of that formatting stuff we mentioned before, there's an awesome browser extension that can be installed in either Google Chrome or in the new Microsoft Edge. And what's going to do is going to provide even better IntelliSense than the current editor on the screen. It's going to do auto preview, which alone is worth its weight in gold, because as you type, the format's going to update directly in your list. You're going to see exactly what you've done. But if you want to go even a little further and you want to work in VS Code, you can. So you can have one monitor that's got VS Code open and it's going to preview live on your site over there on the right. It's awesome. And yes, it is straight up magic. All right, another tool that's available to you is Flykin Io. So if you head over there, if you've ever tried to search for the UI Fabric icons or the Fluent UI icons, I should say, they can be really, really challenging. So if you wanted something like, say, a boat, and you search for a boat, you're not going to get anything. So you may try ship, you're not going to get anything. There's 2,000 of these, and you have to know that that particular icon is called ferry, right? Or if you search for cat, hey, you get a cat. If you search for dog, you get nothing, right? Because it's called fang body, because that's what we all refer to our canine friends as, right? So if you head over here, what this is going to do is going to make it a lot easier. So it's got categories and tags and all sorts of other things to make your life easier in finding these icons. You can even export them to SVG to use in something like Power Apps or wherever else you want to use them. All right.
All right, well, as we move from reuse, we're going to move into share. And we're going to talk about some ways in which you can contribute back to the community, share back with your community contributors and collaborate with them. One of the ways is contributing to open source repositories, and no better person than the owner of the SPFx Web Parts and Extensions repository, Hugo Bernier.
Thank you, David. So there are quite a few open source repositories. As a matter of fact, the majority of the programs that are available through the PnP initiative are available through open source repositories, and you are welcome to contribute to them. There's two of them that are SPFx Web Parts and SPFx Extensions, which allows you to actually submit individual samples, so you don't have to worry about destroying the entire repository because the stuff you're doing is contained in a little folder. You can also submit some list formatting, and then Chris will actually take the credit for it and make it his own. I'm just kidding. And then we have team samples that our friend Bob German will help you demonstrate. That's really great. We've recently added the Power Platform samples as well, because why not, right? People want to use some design patterns for Power Platform. So lots of really cool ways to use Power Automate, Power Apps, Power Virtual Agent, and Power FX. The React Reusable Controls that we demonstrated earlier are also available. So if you have a cool idea for a great control that you can add, you can do that. And also the CLI for Microsoft 365 and Pnp Js. But why don't I get David to tell you more about this slide?
All right, yes. So once you've created your solution and samples and demonstration, you want to share it and show it off. Well, there's opportunities to do that on the Patterns and Practices calls. We don't just get on the calls and have us speak. We actually love to get demonstrations by the community. But we also understand that there are times when you may be a little nervous, right? Public speaking on a recorded session that's in front of hundreds of people, it's not always the most exciting thing. Some people say they'd rather die than have to deal with, they'd rather go through death than have to deal with public speaking. We understand that it can be scary, but what we do have as the buddy system. The buddy system is where you can get paired up with another PnP team member or MVP. We'll work together. We will craft the presentation together, give the presentation together, work on the demo, practice. So by the time the actual curtain goes up and we're ready to present, you'll be ready, you'll be confident, you'll feel good, and it won't be a stressful situation at all. And there's no boundaries to this. We actually had a 14-year-old presenting by way of the buddy system a couple weeks ago. So we invite anyone and everyone that would like to get involved, and don't let Chris here in the middle scare you at all, because you're a couple rows behind him. So you'll be all good. We'll keep the distance. And we would like to invite you to take advantage of that. Now, you may be thinking, wait a second, you're getting ahead of me. I don't even know how to contribute back. I've got some cool things to share, but how do I get them into GitHub? How do I get them into that sample browser, the list formatting sample browser, all of these things? Well, Sharing is Caring is an initiative where we walk you through how to accomplish a number of these tasks hands-on. You'll join a scheduled session with a number of other community contributors and collaborators and those desiring to get more involved. It'll be a safe space, inclusive opportunity. We don't record the sessions, but we do walk you through together in a hands-on lab-like fashion. So we're going to have a number of initiatives that are available to you, from first-time contributor to community docs, setting up your workstation using, if you're a developer, in VM. If you'd like to start learning how to take advantage of things like VS Code, like Chris was showing off, in a way that isn't necessarily just for developers, we've got that. presentation sessions, so many more coming soon. Power Platform, user experience, you name it, we're going to have it. So please, aka.ms/sharing is caring. There is absolutely no cost. They are completely free, and we invite you to join one of those sessions. They're regularly scheduled throughout the month. And with that, I think we are just about on time. So we'd like to thank you for joining us today, allowing us to speak and share with you all of the information and resources that are available to you within the Patterns and Practices community. Beau, Hugo, Chris, feel free to chime in as well.
Great stuff. Thanks, David and Beau and Hugo and Chris. Really appreciate that. Was like, wow. I mean, obviously I've followed bits and pieces through other community codes, but I think that's one magical hour in terms of giving all you have and all the development. So big thank you from me and the attendees on behalf of M365 UK. And I know it's kind of an early morning for you folks. So yeah, hats off to you guys, just being here and giving up the time. So I'll just probably give a minute or two just for the questions to come through. I'm just looking through it now.
Yeah, I think if anyone gets anything from this, it's that there are a lot more resources that we have available to you that we can't fill in an hour. So we did throw a lot of stuff at you. You might not have, remembered everything that we said, but I think you can walk away seeing that there's a powerful community that is trying to help you do your job and make it easier for everyone to adopt these technologies. So if you didn't get everything, that's fine. We will post links for everything. You can also visit the Pnp GitHub website, and you'll have all the links to all of our tools, documentations, calls, and everything else. So
I think that's
and don't hesitate to reach out as well. We're very collaborative and love to work with everyone in the community. Sorry about that, Hugo.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think that's something else that people can walk away with is knowing that Chris literally uses the word literally too often.
Literally.
Literally.
Well, that literally hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
That's great. So I'm just looking through questions we haven't, and I think I can only say that I think you've wowed all the audience members because it's just a lot to take in. So they're probably gathering all their questions and everything else, and no doubt they'll join in some of those calls that you guys make it happen, and also reach out to you. But also just to make sure the attendees, because M365 UK post videos, the recording of this will go on Friday. And the slides, either I'll post a link once I have them, or I'll just direct you to the PNP website, because that's full of all the latest and greatest content that we have. So look out for that comms on Friday. And yeah, I think with that, so just to wrap up on that, is to say that we have a event next month happening, which is around the 16th of June, and so. If you can register for that, if you go to meetup.com/M365UK, then feel free to register. So we got Neil McLaughlin who will be telling us all about the Windows virtual devices with M365 services side of things, but also Anup Tati, which I believe is also one of the contributors to the PNP community as well. So he'll be telling us all about the access tokens and how to do it properly, securely, and using the Microsoft Graph, which is the essential Microsoft 365 data layer, if you like, to access all those programmatic access to those objects. So looking forward to that. And I think once again, just want to say big thanks to Hans Brender for our first session earlier on OneDrive, and also Bill Cameron, Hugo, David, and looking forward to bump into you in some community events. I know we've spoken at a few events. Teams Nation was probably the most recent, and I think the M365 Chicago is coming up soon, so no doubt we'll be there. But yeah, I think with that, look after yourselves, stay well, and once again, thank you to the attendees, and I do apologize for the technical issues earlier on. So with that, have a great time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Bye.